Hello YouTube, this is another QAZWSX2541 tutorial. Today I'm going to be going over the Blender 2.5 interface, just because I've run out of ideas, so I thought I'd cover that. This here would be my first time attempting this. I have not planned anything out for this, so I'll just sort of, wing it. Maybe, okay, I'll give an example with this current game I'm working on. There it is. Probably can't see it too well. And this is 2.5. So far this is sort of an asteroids game type thing. Frame rate's probably really bad right now because I still cannot find good screen recording software. I'm trying something else and it's telling me that it's getting about 10 frames a second, so it's probably not too horribly good. So far there is no scoring or health for your object. Right now all you can do is just go around and blow up these asteroids. Okay, so to give you a sort of overview, pretty much everything has changed with this. I'll start out with basics. First off, whenever you're making a game, first thing you want to do is switch up here, this Blender render. You have to change that to game. Otherwise over here in your sidebar, which should be default, your physics buttons here, you won't get any of that. If you're here, it'll show you physics for animation, but you need physics for the game. Okay, so I'm gonna go to a default one. This is what it should look like. Over here is basically what the bottom bar used to be on the old Blender. So over here you have the scene options. Actually, these here are render, scene, the world, object, constraints, modifiers, mesh, material, texture, particles, and physics. So this here basically takes the place of the bar that was going across the bottom. And in default down here is the game logic, so the logic bricks down here is where it is by default. You have your main 3D screen. Most of the controls are the same. If you did use spacebar for adding stuff, that does not work anymore. So you can't do that right now. If I remember right, it's no. Hold on. It's Shift A to add something right now, so it's a little more complicated, but you can get used to it after a bit. Other than that, most of the controls are the same. Scaling. By the way, something really cool about these grab and scale technique things is that if you drag it off the screen, your cursor will appear on the opposite end. So like, for instance, I could keep moving my mouse to the right. It'll just keep scaling it for an infinite amount until I decide to stop scaling. And the grab controls are the same. The scale, the rotation, they're all the same. Viewing, moving around, pressing the center mouse button to roll and tilt and whatnot, they're all the same. And right click to select. And so, yeah, those are all the same. And then you're gonna need, for the game, to split the areas, because you can't go down here like this and right click anymore. Up here there's these little dashes up in the corner. Move your cursor till it looks like a cross. Click and hold and then drag it over. You see, now that made another window. You can also do that from like the bottom corner like that. And so yeah, you go like that. That's pretty simple. To join two areas, oops, sorry there. Let me see if I can remember. Okay, to join a new area, so you see what I did there, I went up to the corner of the one to the left, and you would drag it over to the right. Now if the one that you want to join is to the right, you grab the one down on the left, bottom left, and drag it over to the right. So like that. So that's pretty simple. Materials, you've got a bit more flexibility, so you add a new material. Here is the new color palette, so it's a color wheel now. So you've got all of that. You can still pull these here manually up and down like that. And you can move, I guess that's the brightness over there. And down here is, if you're using transparent textures, there's normal right here, transparency. For transparent textures, you need to have transparency on, and face textures and face textures alpha on to get those transparent, like PNG images to work right. And okay, so at that point, that shows the materials. Textures are a bit different too, so you add a new texture and it's automatically added to the material. You have to add a material before the texture, otherwise the texture will just go away once you add the material. And there's a few new materials or textures that I haven't messed with yet. So there's a few new textures in that. The particles I have not messed around with at all yet with. So far there's just emitter in here. These here I haven't messed around with at all. Smoke I have a little bit. Going through with the mesh, not much has changed. I don't know what the shortcut is for this because I haven't checked out too many materials or tutorials, not materials, sorry about that. But basically, instead of the center new option that's normally in the edit buttons, I cannot find that. So what I do is you go into object, transform, and then down here you can choose geometry to origin, origin to geometry, origin to 3D cursor, align objects, and randomize transform. So origin to geometry is basically just like center new and so on and so on and so on. Then the modifiers, they're pretty much the same. Get rid of those two. So you can add a modifier like and there are a lot of new modifiers as well. I don't know, there's a lot of these that I have no idea what they do. But you get like subsurf, wherever that is. I don't see a subsurf. Subdivision surface, it's not subsurf anymore. It calls it subsurf here. Then you go on constraints, have a few new constraints there as well. This here is the object button, so here you can set the parent. If you click here where you would normally type in a name, it automatically comes up with a list of names there, which is really nice. I like that. And then the world buttons, you can change the type of sky it has, like that. Down here you have mist and stars. So there you have stars and mist. Wait, that's something weird. It has height. I don't know what that does. Decreases with height. Okay, so apparently this here would appear that with the mist, as you would go higher in elevation, the mist gets less and less thick. Kind of neat.